Ricky Blair is the founder and director of Platform 7, a Los Angeles and London-based life and business coaching consultancy that helps unlock potential in young entrepreneurs and sales professionals and reveals the kind of truths that are never taught in school. From a young real estate entrepreneur himself and now to a life coach, business mentor, and success therapist, he gives young people the self-belief, skills, and strategies they need to succeed. Ricky, welcome to the Run GPG podcast.
Thank you very much, Dave, and thanks for that intro. That was great.
Yeah, well, it's your bio. It's impressive. I was looking forward to this show for a minute here. We were connected originally by James Harris, right? Friend of the Greater Property Group, and soon to be, I don't know if you know this, but soon to be two-time guest alumni of the Run GPG podcast. And he was like, he was saying to me, you got to talk to Ricky, you got to have a meeting with Ricky. And I'm really glad that he actually connected us, because when we started talking about things, we ended up having a lot in common. But then it also became evident that you have a really interesting story and so much value you can give to young entrepreneurs and young sales professionals, particularly in real estate. So again, really looking forward to unpacking all of that and discuss it here. So first of all, Ricky, to introduce things, can you give us some background on your journey as a young real estate entrepreneur in London? Like, where did it all start for Ricky Blair?
Okay, so it started back in London, as you say. It started with me failing miserably at school. I enjoyed school. I don't think I was, I was stumped and challenged by exams. I knew the knowledge, but I could not apply it into an exam setting. So I had no choice really but to leave school at 16. And basically I had this burning desire to prove the school system wrong and demonstrate that you could succeed even if you'd failed in the education system. So I just had this ambition to get out there and start working and start earning money. Interesting.
So is that high school? 16? Is that high school?
I left high school at 16, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it works slightly differently in England, but yes, I didn't go to what we call university.
Right. So you're a high school dropout, basically, right? You have
Correct.
Bad grades, as you said, poor prospects, yet you go on to establish an award-winning real estate company in London. Like, how did that happen? Can you bring us through that journey?
Okay. So my attitude, my mentality was, I was desperate to succeed. All I wanted to do at that age was find someone to show me how to succeed. Someone had done it themselves. I wanted to learn the right ways. I wanted to learn from someone's mistakes. I was desperate to be guided in some way. My attitude was at 16, I'm very employable. I'm young. I'm not going to cost anyone that much money. So I wanted to try different things. So I was just about trying different fields, different genres, different jobs. And I started, I responded to an advertisement, and I took a job as a T-boy, as a junior, as we call it in London, at a commercial real estate brokerage. That's where it started for me. And 12 months into that job, that thing or that person I was looking for literally sort of stumbled into my life. This super successful multimillionaire real estate guy in his early 50s. His name was Nigel, and he came along, took me out for lunch one day, and that's when everything changed for me.
Interesting. Okay. So you go on to create this brokerage, and from what I understand, and of course, when you and I talked originally, this became a very disruptive brokerage. And I know that's a buzzword, but you did some, when a brokerage or a company or, a business does something that's different from their competition, the word you naturally hear is disruptive, but yours was as well. What did your real estate brokerage or your company do to transform the industry?
So I was about 24 years old when I set up the brokerage with my two business partners. And I guess there was frustration having worked for somebody else for 6 or 7 years prior to that. We were very young, very ambitious. We had all these creative different ideas. And all of a sudden we set up the business and we looked at it that we had this blank canvas where we could literally go about sort of tackling the industry in whichever way we wanted to. We were of a younger demographic. And I think what also helped us was we never worked for any of these big corporate organizations. So we weren't sort of molded in this sort of cookie cutter way. It wasn't like this is how you had to do it. We were free. And I remember my business partner, Michael, always said it to me. Our attitude was 50% of what we do is real estate. We advise on real estate. We sell real estate. We rent out real estate. But the other part, we were a marketing agency. And we just looked at the way it was done, and we saw all these different industries around us evolving, changing. We just went for it, and we started to implement. Our attitude was, if we wanted to achieve something different, if you want a different result, you have to do things differently. And that was our mantra.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you brought that up. One of the pet peeves I have is when a real estate agent is asked what they do, they say, I'm a realtor, and you're not. You're in the professional marketing business, right? And I think that you have such a phenomenal opportunity when somebody asks you what you do to differentiate yourself, right? Like, I help X, desired result, whatever that might be. But I like the way you're thinking. You were focusing on marketing differently, but you also did something else. You focused on the young agents, the young entrepreneurs, right? Mm-hmm. Eventually, how did that happen? So
my two business partners and I, we all left education at 16 or 17, and we were all given an opportunity. And in my case, I was this mentor that I referred to, who literally taught me how to succeed, how to achieve, how to go about sort of tackling and approaching the world of real estate. Mm-hmm. We were all given an opportunity. So when we set up our own brokerage, Hatton Real Estate, at 24, 25, when it came to employing and recruiting, as a way of sort of paying it forward, we would only give young people a shot. So we would only employ young. We looked for the same attributes and qualities in each young person we came across, and it was a formula that worked, and we were sort of known for it.
So was that focus on young people, was that deliberate, or was that organic growth?
It was deliberate in the such that we wanted to give back. But what we found was, we didn't necessarily tell people this at the time, recruitment was one of the most important pieces of our business. And every time we recruited, we never looked at someone's resume. We didn't care what they did, what they had or hadn't achieved in the education system. All we wanted to see was who they were, what their ambition was, what their why was, what was driving them. And the beauty of hiring young was, firstly, you had this drive and desire and energy about them. And secondly, they had no faults. They hadn't sort of learned bad habits. And we could mold them and guide them and nurture them in the way which we felt worked. And that was the beauty.
Yeah, it's super interesting. You created a company that focuses on the young agent, the young entrepreneur. And it's interesting when you create a hip, disruptive brand, you attract your tribe, right? Much like mm-hmm. Our company has. We can say that we're definitely, the agents are attracted to the brand for different reasons. But can you touch on that or speak on that? Like, how important is it that you find your people, find your tribe?
I think the key, one of the most important parts of the business was the team we built. Yeah. The morale, the energy in the office, the culture. And I think like attracts like in life. And I think that who we were, what we represented, the way we conducted ourselves, our ethics, our principles, I think we attracted that in terms of the people that came along. I think we were perceived as a very attractive place to go and work. We were moving in the right direction. We were seen as this company that gave young talent an opportunity.
Yeah, we're finding that as well. It's funny, especially when it comes to branding, there's a difference between branding and selling in our opinion, but, brand, mm-hmm. When people get to know, like, and trust you, and they see your success and the success of your agents and what your brand's all about, your mission statement, core values, you start to attract those people. Your company's not for everyone, but it is for certain people that want to be a part of that. Super proud of our brand, as you were as well. What are your thoughts? And not to, catch you off guard on this one, but your thoughts on from a brokerage perspective. There's a phrase that's been going around lately, and it's the death of the big box brands.
I think the challenge they have is there is a part of me that feels they are stale in that they've been doing the same thing for years and years and years. Yeah. And I think the advantage that smaller, niche, more nimble businesses have is they can be more flexible. They can adapt, they can pivot, especially during challenging times or times of change, a lot easier. I do think they are going to have to change these big corporates. I don't think the same way is going to work, especially when such transformations happening in business right now. But I personally think that newer big corporates will come along and be built as a result of these changing times.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. This stale, a little tired. It's time for an update. Yeah. They don't adapt as easy as the boutique, brokerages. And as you said, like you guys really niched down and you became attractive to the big box brand at that point. But yeah, interesting thought. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. So now you help young professionals realize their potential, right? You had successful agents in your company. What did you do to make them successful? Like, how did you help them? What did your training look like? Was it about mentorship? How did you help young agents become successful?
So I had this mentor that taught me how to visualize, how to dream, how to set goals, how to achieve those goals. And more importantly than that, he taught me all the skills and the attributes you needed to succeed in business, in life, things like work ethic, efficiency, organization, consistency, treating people the right way. We try when we employ these young guys, they'd come in one at a time, and a big part of that and the way we lured them in was we had this mentoring and coaching program. And the way it worked was it wasn't like some set program. Each person that came along was different. They had their own skills, their own qualities, their own strengths. And I mean, to give you an example, most brokers came into the company, and they just were so determined to do these big numbers so quickly. One of the first things we did was take all that pressure off them. We found that the less pressure they had, the more they perform easier, the better they perform rather. And what we do was we had a process. We would see where they were at. We saw what level they were at. We would see what they were good at, what they were bad at, and we would just sort of dip in and out very informally. We'd sit down with them. We would highlight where they were struggling, where they needed to improve, where they needed to refine. And as I said, no two people were the same. And I think one of the biggest attributes we had as three business partners around the business, we kind of showed them the way. We led by example in terms of how we conducted ourselves, how we behaved, how we handled clients, the honest advice we were giving. And before we knew it, we had sort of 40 to 50 of these young people under our company brand, and we sort of refined this sort of coaching and mentoring, which I now refer to like success therapy. It was a mixture of old school mentoring. It was a little bit of life coaching, but it was almost a bit of therapy as well. And as a result, I think it seemed to work. And when we sold the company, we were sort of known for helping young people with this sort of success therapy. And before we knew, we had all these young people from all different walks of life and other businesses, young entrepreneurs reaching out to us, and we were sort of spreading it as much as we could, really.
That's awesome. Success therapy. I like that phrase.
Thank you.
What was the quality you saw in the most successful agents at your brokerage? Like, was there one, overwhelming quality that the most successful, agents had? Okay.
So I think to be a good, steady 7 out of 10 agent, I think you just need to do the fundamentals right. And we used to say this to all of our people. If you work hard, you do what you say you're going to do, and you are likable, you straight off, you're doing the fundamentals right. It's not rocket science. And it was amazing how many out there didn't do those three things. But I think to answer your question, what set the best apart, what turned the 7 out of 10s into 10 out of 10s was, I think, forward thinking, entrepreneurial thinking. They weren't just processing. They were thinking outside the box. They're being creative. I think the value you bring to your clients is when you can be a little bit creative and come up with ideas, and you're not just processing. That's what changes the game, in our opinion.
That's awesome. That's a good answer. I like doing the fundamentals. I mean, paying attention to those things. We just, in our company meeting this morning with our guest speaker, he used a slide presentation. He was showing Kobe Bryant, and 3:30 in the morning, working for hours on layups, and little jump shots, the fundamentals. And he said, that's why I'm the best in the world, is because I work on the fundamentals. So it's not, it's really,
it reminds me of Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
Something like he'd go to the gym at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Simply because he knew that whilst he was in the gym, his opponent was literally sleeping, and it just psychologically gave him an edge.
Isn't that awesome? It's amazing. Profound, right? So yeah, successful trait. What advice would you give a new agent fresh out of real estate school, like ready to get going? Like, what's the most important things for them to focus on?
That is a great question. I think going back to what I was just saying before, you've just got to do the fundamentals right. A lot of people go into real estate thinking it's just sort of there on a plate for them. They're going to come along, succeed, make a lot of money. The work ethic piece is underestimated. And the other thing, I think one of the most important bits of advice is it's a process. You've got to do the right things at the right time. You've got to start from the bottom. You've got to learn your trade. You've got to be patient. And by the way, this is something which my mentor massively helped me with. I wanted to run straight away. If I had my way, I started at 16. By 18, I would have been running my own business. Mm-hmm. But it is a process, and you can't leave steps out along the way, or you will get caught out further down the line.
That's good advice. This, you may have kind of answered this, but what mistakes do you see new agents making? Like, is there one thing you see them doing that they shouldn't be doing? You may have kind of answered this, but what mistakes do you see new agents making? Like, is there one thing you see them doing that they shouldn't be doing?
I think along those lines, they don't work hard enough. They want to run quickly, but I think it's also doing the right things, being honest, giving the right, just being a good person, treating people the right way. People do cock up in the fact that they look for a short-term gain. So you could do a big deal which can make you a lot of money, but some will roll their reputation on that one deal. And your reputation is going to stay with you for 30, 40, 50 years. It's not worth it to make that big commission on that one deal. And that is where we see a lot of mistakes made.
Yeah, that's a good point. Profound insight. You talked about this at the beginning here, but just your thoughts on the importance of mentorship for young entrepreneurs. How important is that? It was important for you, right?
It was huge for me. Yes, I had to do sort of hold up my end of the bargain, but I'm not sure I would have done it without a mentor. It saves time. It prevents you from making mistakes. And also I find it amazing. Mentoring, it's almost unspoken of. We mentioned two people there in Floyd Mayweather, and you were talking about Kobe Bryant. It's quite amazing how many high achievers, whether it be in business, sports, the entertainment industry, that had mentors, and it's not spoken of. From the Serena Williamses to the Oprah Winfreys to the Tony Robbinses, the people in business, Mark Zuckerberg. I think it's crucial.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's really important to have a mentorship, system, or, you clip in with the right people, especially when you're new in the business or a young real estate agent. Super important. Can you touch on goals? How important is it for young agents, young entrepreneurs to set goals? Like, what kind of goals should they be setting is, I guess, the second part of that.
I think it's important, not just for young agents, not just young real estate brokers. I think for anyone in any walk of life, goals are everything. It's probably been one of the most important things in my own journey. You've got to know where you're going. You've got to set a destination. Otherwise, you don't end up anywhere. You've got to know where it's all sort of pointing towards. In terms of young brokers, I think it's about, going back to sort of how we nurtured our own people. The goals I would recommend are things like billings, the commission they're trying to bill, 6-month targets, 12-month targets. It could also be like the level or the size of a house or a building they're looking to sell, or it could be targeting working on a certain weakness or something they want to improve upon, or maybe they want to expand their networking. There's so many different things, but every 6 months, every 12 months, I had different goals, and it's fundamental.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like the way you said that. Okay, can you speak on company culture? We talked about your company and the culture it built, and of course that became attractive. How do you build a successful culture? How did you build a successful culture?
So I think from the outset, you set what you're all about as a business. What do you stand for? In our case, it was giving young people an opportunity. It was giving them the freedom. It was giving them the freedom to be creative and entrepreneurial. But I think, I'm a big soccer fan. So growing up as a kid, I was massive on sports management, football management. And some of the patterns I used to see was you could have the best squad or best team of players in the world. But if you've got one or two bad eggs, destructive, causing problems, the whole sort of stack of cards will fall down. So one of the most important things for us was everyone had to get on with each other. There was always good vibes, good energy in the office. I remember when we would interview people looking to employ people, the one question I'd ask in the back of my mind was, would I want to be in the same office? Would I want to spend my time with this person every day, well, every working day of my life? And I think the fundamentals at the end of this, we had a team of 35, 40 people, and they all had the same attributes. They were all, first and foremost, they were good human beings. They had the right principles, the right morals, the right ethics in place. And I know this will sound dramatic, but it was so true. If somebody came along that we interviewed that I genuinely believe could have built big fees, big figures, let's say $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million a year, categorically, if they were a bad person or did not fit with the culture, we were saying no to them, because it was, again, it's a short-term gain, that extra $1 million or $2 million a year, but it's too damaging and too disruptive what it can do elsewhere.
Yeah, that's well put, and it's not being overly dramatic. You're absolutely right. You want to cut that, that cancer if it exists, right? It's use that analogy, but it's true. The chemistry is super important. Championship teams, they have that chemistry, they have that company culture, right? Yeah. So it's super important. Now, okay, to bring this full circle, you end up selling your company to multiple bidders. I love that. How did that happen?
So we changed the game in terms of how we're going about our business. We were only working with design agencies, branding agencies, different sorts of architects. We were looking to do things differently, and it got to a stage where we were dominating a market within central London, where all the tech companies were flocking to. We were dominating this market, and every building we went for, every pitch we went for, we seemed to win, and the big brokers couldn't help but take notice. Mm-hmm. It was bizarre. Each one by one, the biggest were making us offers, and we weren't interested in selling. I mean, we couldn't quite believe what was actually happening to us. But even though we weren't interested in selling, we were talking to these big brokers, and one by one, they were almost explaining to us what they would do with our brokerage if they bought us. So we sort of decided we weren't going to sell, but what we did do was take all this advice and guidance. We put together this sort of game plan which was, this is where we're at, this is where we want to get the business to, this was our strategy, these were the multiple revenue streams and departments we were going to create. And we believe if we could achieve all of that over a 2-3 year period, we were interested in selling, because we wanted to move on and do different things. And at the end of it, we got to the numbers, and the right company was there to make us the right bid. And just after, in 2016, we got the offer, and that changed everything.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? You start out and you have no idea it's going to go to multiple bids and eventually being bought by a major company. So really, really interesting. Okay, so you leave London, you're now in Los Angeles, and you create Platform 7. It's a brand new company. It's a new concept that works closely with young people and business to understand their interests and ambitions and help them conquer fears and challenges to be successful, specifically young entrepreneurs, right? So can you tell us about the concept as well as why it was created? Like, what exactly is Platform 7?
So we had this success therapy that was working within my business, Hatton Real Estate. When we sold the company, I had to stay on for 4 years, which was tough. I had to hit a number, and if I'm honest, it was a little bit boring. I was excited by the challenge of selling Hatton, and then I had to stay around. So I said it changed everything. Not only did it was very good for me personally, the sale, but it sort of enhanced our reputation as the go-to guys that help young adults and entrepreneurs succeed. So one by one, more and more people were reaching out to us. And for those 4 years, to keep me occupied, keep me busy, I was working with these young entrepreneurs, young adults, and I started to realize the success therapy didn't just work in the world of real estate; it worked across the border. So when I came to LA, I realized there was more and more need for it. There's so much desire to succeed and achieve out here, and basically what we're doing is the gap between education and succeeding. The education system does not prepare you for the journey ahead. It doesn't get you thinking about what you want from life, how to go about achieving it. And also all the attributes my mentor taught me. Every time I learned these things, I was obsessed with success, of studying and observing why successful people succeed and why failures fail. And if I had $1 for every time someone, I remember saying to myself, how could they not teach me this growing up in the education system? So that's all we do. We work out where someone's at. We work out their own unique gifts and skills. We give them a roadmap to get to where they want to get to in life. And we give them the tools, learnings, teachings, understandings they need to get there. And we sort of guide them along the way.
Yeah, well, you're a true entrepreneur, Ricky. That's for sure. Okay, moving along here to personal development. We always like to, ask our successful guests what they're doing in their personal life that makes them successful. So, as we talked about at the beginning of our discussion, you were a dropout. I'm sorry, I keep saying that.
You're good.
You're a dropout.
You really put that in a nice way. I'm a dropout. I'm a screw up. Yeah.
Bad grades. Outlook didn't look great. What do you think was the main driver behind your success? Like, how did you turn it around? Was there something inside of you that said, I need to succeed at some point?
The day I got my final grades and I looked around at all the people who have succeeded, I literally made a promise with myself. I made a deal with myself that I was going to prove that this was all not the be all and end all. I had this burning desire to succeed. So I'm a big believer. When you set a target, it's not something you aim for, it's a decision. In fact, Will Smith says it. You just decide what's going to happen. And that was it. That's what was happening. Yeah. I think the other game changer was, and I keep referring to him, the mentor that came into my life. It absolutely changed the game for me. I must have saved myself 15 to 20 years in the process.
Yeah. Shout out to Nigel.
Thanks for remembering his name. Absolutely.
What does your daily routine look like? Do you have one? Do you have a regimented morning routine, a daily routine, anything like that?
It's somewhat changed during COVID. I think in my real estate days, my routine and regime, I just worked, and there's not much tact or strategy there. It was 7 days a week. It was an obsession. I think now it's been refined during COVID. I think the biggest tweak or change I've made during COVID, listen, we all work hard. It's been a key part of I think what's allowed me to get to where I've got to so far. But I've actually found that pausing, taking little breaks of downtime. I mean, I never thought I'd be one to go for a walk in the middle of the day, but just getting away from it or giving yourself a day or two off on the weekend, I'm actually starting to see the benefit that has by creating space and by slowing things down. It almost allows you to see clearer, and that's been a huge game changer for me. But yes, to achieve big things, I was always taught you had to live and operate in the right sort of way. So work ethic, I try to look after myself. I meditate, I work out, I eat clean. I think you've got to do all the basics right, but that's not going to guarantee success. But you've got to be doing the basics right.
Yeah, it's well put. Doing the basics right is everything. I find that, COVID has really forced people to control what they can. And I think people are coming out of this or still in this thinking, okay, well, now I have to do something. I can't just sit on a couch all the time. I need to put some sort of routine back in my life or take control back in some way. And I think people are starting to focus on that. So we like to ask that question, but you're right. Look after the fundamentals, eat clean, get some exercise, go for a walk, clear your head. I think that's so important because there's all this weirdness coming at us, information, news, not news, whatever it is. There's so much fog out there.
I'm also a big believer that one size does not fit all. I mean, you see some guys who are living off 4 or 5 hours sleep, who are working 18, 19-hour days. Some can do it, some it works for, but everyone is different. And I don't know, I think you've got to find what works for you, what routine works for you, what allows you to operate and be at the best you can be.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Is there an app or a piece of technology that you cannot live without?
Although it was so significant with our business, social media, I'm not huge on social media.
I know you have no IG account. You have no IG account.
I will do, and Platform 7 absolutely will do. But one thing that lived with me, Serena Williams always said, she didn't spend too much time on Instagram or social media, but she was so busy focusing on her own goals and dreams, she didn't have time to look at others achieving theirs. So I've never been big on social media, but I think in terms of technology, I'm old school and back to basics. The first thing I was ever taught was, if you say you're going to do something, you do it. So if I tell you I'm going to call you next Tuesday at 12:30, I'm not forgetting that. So in answer to your question, reminder apps. I'm obsessed with reminder apps. I cannot forget things. And there's so much information, so many conversations, so many things you tell people that you're going to do. You just can't let anything sort of, I can't drop the ball on anything. So I'm big on that.
If you're an entrepreneur or you run a business of any kind and you do not have a means of being reminded or running with reminder apps, I don't know how you're in business. I really don't. Like, I mean, when I go to bed at night, sometimes you wake up, quickly sit out of bed. Damn it, I have to put in this reminder. I'll forget. And it's like 5 things you forgot about for the next day or the next week, so. But
David, it's just so basic.
Yeah.
But it's not something which people think about, and it's as we said before. If you do the basics right, you are absolutely ahead of sort of 70% of the field.
100%, couldn't agree more. Okay, we're going to land the plane on this question and give this some thought. You don't have to answer right away. Maybe know this, maybe you don't. But you're opening a bottle of champagne a year from now, celebrating something you've accomplished. What would that be? 1 year from now.
This is a great question. I think from my perspective, Platform 7 being established, being a name in the market, and more importantly, starting to have the impact on young Americans in the way it did back in England. What I did was established back in England because of my reputation, but here it's new. People don't know sort of who I am or what I've done back there. But yeah, it's this business. Yes, it is a business, but I've got to pay it forward. I've got to help young people because someone once changed my life. So I guess the answer to your question is it's established and it's having the influence and it's having a positive impact in the way it had on me and others. Yeah,
I like that question because it forces you to think, about a goal 1 year from now,
Well, you really hyped it up there, but no, it's a good question. It's a great question.
Yeah. It makes sense though. What an awesome discussion. I really enjoyed this, super good to get to know you better and talk about what young entrepreneurs and sales professionals can do to grow and scale their business in a changing industry. And I believe the children are the future.
Thanks again for today.
All right, brother.
Good luck. Take care, man.
Take care.